Hello, my name is Sinead and I am a Dietitian and Nutritional Advisor for the Aiken Group. So today I've put together a brief video talking about food related problems with your stoma. Before we get on to that, it's important that you contact your GP, your stoma nurse or your dietitian if you have any issues or concerns regarding your stoma. So firstly, I do want to stress the fact that there are no foods that are specifically contraindicated for pouch patients. And what I mean there is that there is no food out there that I would say that you cannot have. Everything is trial and error, and it all comes down to your tolerance. What you might be able to tolerate with a food, somebody else might not be able to tolerate. So it's a journey, so it is. You introduce foods into your diet and then you identify if that food sits well with you or you're able to tolerate it. A really good rule of thumb would be to keep a food diary, a food intolerance diary. So it's something that maybe you can reflect back on if you're starting to reintroduce foods into your diet. It's something that you can write down, and then further into your journey you can reflect back and see how well you tolerated that food. It is a slow process, as we would advise that you would introduce one new food at a time, so at least you can identify if that food is okay for you. Now, as I said, there is no foods that are specifically contraindicated for pouch patients. However, there are certain foods that can cause symptoms such as odor or flatulence. And these are the things I'm going to speak to you about today. So other issues that have been highlighted by stoma patients would be things like foods that are poorly digested that could cause a blockage. Other things would be like increased stool odor, increased frequency of stool, increase your bloating or flatulence. There could be a decrease in stool consistency, or things like maybe like perianal irritation. So I am going to speak to you about foods that maybe fall into these groups. However, as I did stress, it is all individual. This is not something, it's only a guide, so it's not something that you need to follow religiously. As I said, people might be able to tolerate every one of these foods and have no issues at all. And then on the other hand, there could be some people out there that aren't able to tolerate some of the foods. So foods that are poorly digested that could cause a blockage would be things like your grapefruits, lettuce, mushrooms, sweet corn would come in there, fruits and vegetables that maybe still have their skins on, so you might have to remove that skin. High fibre foods, peas, nuts, seeds. Tomatoes would be something, coconut as well, celery and even pineapple can fall into that category. Okay, so foods that maybe cause an odor. So there's an increase in stool odor, and this is common for people with and without a stoma bag. So foods such as your onions, your garlics, your broccolis, your Brussels sprouts, cabbages, kale, beans, and that would be another one, eggs and fish can sometimes fall into that category. Increased flatulence, so increased bloating. Foods that maybe can cause this here would be things like your baked beans, your lentils, your peas, your onions, your garlic as well, your brassica vegetables, things like your cabbage, your kale, your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts. Fizzy drinks, beer and lager can cause an increase in bloating and an increase in flatulence. So we talk about stool frequency, and if you're noticing that maybe there's an increase in your stool frequency, if you're having beer or maybe spirits also, Chinese food has been identified to cause maybe an increase in stool frequency. Spicy foods, strawberries, corn, apple, wine, fried and spicy foods, bananas, some breads, potatoes, fruit and fruit juices and vegetables. Maybe you've noticed that there's a decrease in your stool consistency. So certain foods that are quite common that maybe cause this will be things like wine, your fried fish, strawberries, corn, popcorn, spirits as well, coleslaw, your grapefruit, turnips, raspberries and fruit juices. And then you also hear about maybe you've got an irritation or perianal irritation. So spicy foods can cause it, citrus fruit, raw carrots, nuts and seeds. So I've just identified some foods that maybe can cause certain symptoms. But again, I can't stress enough that it is very individual and it's really just how much you can tolerate and when you can tolerate it. Okay, thank you.